Someone was crying in my car. I had just finished my shift at the hospital, exhausted, starving, and thinking only about getting home to collapse on my couch. As I walked through the parking lot toward my beat-up Honda, I pulled out my phone to check a message from my roommate about dinner. That was my mistake. I got distracted, clicked the unlock button without thinking, tossed my bag in the passenger seat and slid behind the wheel. It wasn't until I reached for the ignition that I heard it. A soft, broken whimper coming from the back seat. My entire body froze. My heart stopped mid-beat. Slowly I lifted my eyes to the rearview mirror, and what I saw made my blood run cold. A small boy, maybe 7 years old, was curled up on my back seat, knees pulled to his chest, hands covering his face as he sobbed quietly. His hair was messy, his cheeks flushed red, and his whole body trembled like a leaf in the wind. For a split second I thought maybe I was hallucinating from exhaustion. Then panic set in. How did this child get in my car? When did he get in? I pulled the car over to the side of the lot, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Taking a breath, I turned around carefully, trying not to startle him further. "Hey there, kiddo," I said, keeping my voice as gentle as possible. "Are you okay? What are you doing in here?" He stopped crying for just a moment. Then he looked up at me with the most heartbreaking eyes I'd ever seen. Wide, wet, terrified. "Uncle, please hide me. Please." My throat tightened painfully. What kind of child is so frightened that they hide in a stranger's car? "Hide you from who?" I asked softly, leaning closer but keeping my distance so I wouldn't scare him. "My dad," he whispered, and then burst into tears again, his small hands desperately trying to wipe away the evidence of his crying. Something inside me shattered. I grabbed a tissue from my console and moved slowly into the back seat, sitting beside him at a respectful distance. "Hey, it's okay. You're safe right now, I promise." I gently wiped the tears from his cheeks, moving slowly like I was handling something incredibly precious and fragile. But my mind was racing. Who was this boy? Why was his father so terrifying that he'd run away and hide like this? Then came a sharp knock on my window. Loud. Demanding. I turned my head, and what I saw made my stomach drop. A man stood outside my car, easily 6 feet tall, wearing an impeccably tailored black suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. His dark gray eyes were locked onto me with an intensity that felt like being pinned under a spotlight. His face was expressionless, jawline sharp enough to cut glass, but his entire presence radiated control and authority. This was someone used to being obeyed without question. I recognized him immediately. Brent Lewis. The Brent Lewis, CEO of Lewis Enterprises, the wealthiest and most powerful businessman in the city. His face was on billboards, in magazines, featured in business news segments. He was untouchable, unreachable, and absolutely terrifying in person. And this crying child in my car was his son. "Open the door," Brent said. His voice was quiet, but there was no room for negotiation in those 3 words. It was a command. Pure and simple. I cracked the window open slightly, my heart hammering. "Look, I don't know what's happening here, but open the door. Now." My hand moved toward the door handle instinctively, but then I heard it, a small broken voice from behind me. "No, Uncle. Please, don't open it. Please." I looked back at Brent. His gaze had shifted to the boy now, and there was something in his eyes that I couldn't quite read. Anger, maybe. Exhaustion, definitely. But also pain. Deep, raw pain. The boy's trembling hand gripped the back of my shirt tighter. I made a decision. I didn't open the door. Instead, I kept my eyes on Brent's face, watching the subtle changes in his expression. "Mr. Lewis," I said carefully, "your son is very upset right now. Maybe if we just give him a moment to calm down." "That is my son," Brent interrupted, his tone sharp as a blade. "And you are a stranger keeping him in your vehicle. Do you understand the position you're putting yourself in?" He was right, of course. Technically, I was nobody, just a junior nurse working double shifts to afford rent in this expensive city. And he was everything I could never be: powerful, wealthy, influential. One phone call and he could ruin my life. But still, "Yes, he's your son," I replied quietly, glancing back at the frightened child. "But right now, he's hiding from you. That means something went wrong. And if you force this situation, He's only going to be more traumatized. Silence stretched between us. The only sounds were the distant hum of traffic and the boy's soft hiccuping sobs. Then, slowly, Brent took a step backward. I blinked in surprise. I hadn't expected that. Carefully, I rolled the window down all the way. I'll bring him out to you. Just please be patient. He's in a very fragile state right now. Brent didn't respond. He simply stood there, hands sliding into his pockets, his posture marginally less threatening but still imposing. He was listening, at least. I turned back to the boy, moving carefully. Hey buddy, what's your name? Donnie. He managed between hiccups, his voice barely audible. Okay Donnie, listen to me. I positioned myself to be at his eye level, making sure he could see that I wasn't a threat. I'm not going to let anyone hurt you, alright? You're safe with me, but your dad is outside and he's waiting. Do you think you could talk to him? Just for a minute? Donnie shook his head violently. Then he hesitated. He's really mad at me. Really mad. Why? I asked gently, placing a reassuring hand on his small shoulder. I got in a fight at school, Donnie whispered, staring at his lap, and Dad told me that if I did it again he wouldn't talk to me anymore. He said I'm an embarrassment to him. Oh. My chest tightened painfully. This tiny child was carrying such heavy words that no 7-year-old should ever have to bear. I took a deep breath and made another decision. Opening the car door, I carefully lifted Donnie into my arms. He was so light, so small, like he might break if I held him too tightly. As I carried him toward his father, Donnie buried his face in my shoulder, his thin arms wrapping tightly around my neck as if I were his only lifeline. Brent's eyes were fixed on his son. There was no warmth in his expression, no visible emotion, just a blank, unreadable stare. But when I used my sleeve to gently wipe away the tears streaming down Donnie's cheeks, doing it so naturally, so carefully, everything changed. Brent's eyes widened. His lips parted slightly. It was as if he'd just witnessed something he hadn't seen in years. Something he'd forgotten existed. Tenderness. Genuine care. Connection. And in that single moment something shifted in the air between us. Something unspoken but undeniable. I never imagined that standing before a CEO could feel so suffocating. Brent knocked on the car window again, this time with more force, and his eyes carried a warning that his patience was wearing dangerously thin. I won't ask again. My heart pounded against my rib cage, but behind me that small hand was gripping my shoulder, fingers twisted desperately in the fabric of my shirt. He was trusting me, and I'd never seen anyone so vulnerable in my entire life. Not in the hospital, not anywhere. Mr. Lewis, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady, your son is extremely upset right now. Maybe if you gave him some space. That's my son. Brent cut me off, his tone like ice. And you're a stranger holding him in your car. Do you comprehend what you're doing? He was absolutely right. Legally, morally, professionally, I was way out of line. I was a nobody, a junior nurse who worked overtime just to make ends meet. And he was everything I could never be. Yet here I was, refusing to back down. Yes, he's your son, I said quietly, keeping my gaze steady on Brent while trying to project calm toward Donnie behind me. But right now, he doesn't want to be near you. That suggests something serious happened. If you force him out, you'll only make things worse. Excuse me. For the first time, Brent's expression cracked. Just slightly. Something flickered in his eyes. Shock? Hurt? Guilt? I took a long breath and gathered my courage to look directly into his intimidating gaze. I'm saying that if your son is this afraid of you, something went very wrong. And if you pull him out by force right now, you'll traumatize him even more. Several seconds of heavy silence followed. The only sounds were the distant buzz of a streetlight and the soft whimpering coming from the back seat. Then Brent took a step back. Slowly, deliberately, I stared at him in surprise. I hadn't expected compliance. Carefully, I rolled the window down completely. Look, I'll bring him out. Just please be patient. He needs a minute. Brent offered no verbal response. He simply stood there, hands now in his pockets, his body language marginally softer but still radiating authority. Still terrifying. But maybe he was actually listening. I turned back to face Donnie, moving with deliberate gentleness, Hey buddy, can you tell me your name? Donnie, he said through hiccups, barely able to control his breathing. All right, Donnie, I need you to listen carefully. I crouched to get on his level, inching a bit closer. I promise I won't let anyone hurt you. Okay? You're safe with me, but your dad is waiting outside. Would you be willing to talk to him? Even just once? Donnie shook his head, no. Then he paused. He's so angry with me. Really, really angry. Why? I asked softly, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. I got into a fight at school, Donnie whispered, his eyes fixed downward. And Dad said if I did it again he'd stop talking to me. He said I'm an embarrassment. Oh! My heart sank. This tiny boy was carrying words far too heavy for someone his age. I stepped out of the car, opened the back door and carefully lifted Donnie into my arms. He was light, fragile, like he might shatter if I wasn't careful enough. As I carried him toward Brent, Donnie pressed his face into my shoulder, his arms wrapping tightly around my neck as if clinging to the only safety he knew. Brent's gaze remained locked on Donnie. No expression, no warmth, just a cold, impenetrable stare. But then I did something without thinking. I used my sleeve to gently wipe away the tears on Donnie's flushed cheeks. It was instinctive, natural, the way you'd comfort any frightened child. And Brent's entire face transformed. His eyes widened, his lips parted. It was as though he'd just seen something miraculous, something he'd long forgotten existed in the world. Compassion. Real, unfiltered care. Human connection. In that instant, the atmosphere between us changed. Something unspoken passed through the air, something neither of us could name but both of us felt. Brent seemed frozen, unable to look away from the simple act of kindness I'd just shown his son. His jaw tightened and for a brief moment, I thought I saw his eyes glisten before he blinked it away. Finally he cleared his throat. Donnie. But Donnie didn't respond. He only buried himself deeper into my shoulder. Donnie. Brent tried again, this time softer, almost pleading. Please, look at me. Donnie shook his head. You hate me now. I know you do. Brent went completely still. What? You said it, Donnie's voice cracked. Fresh tears forming. You said if I fought again, you'd stop loving me. You said I embarrass you. I felt Brent's entire body tense. His fists clenched at his sides. Not from anger but from realization. From regret. He exhaled slowly and closed his eyes briefly, as if trying to compose himself. Donnie, I didn't mean it that way. He stopped, rubbing his forehead. I was angry, scared. I shouldn't have said those things. Then why did you yell at me in front of everyone? Donnie whispered, still hiding. In front of my teacher? You made me feel so small. Brent's posture collapsed. All the power, all the authority, it drained from him in an instant. Slowly, he lowered himself to his knees, bringing himself to Donnie's level, or at least as close as he could get. Donnie. I'm sorry, Brent said, and for the first time his voice carried raw vulnerability. I was terrified. Your teacher said you hit a kid twice your size. I kept thinking, what if you got hurt? I can't lose you, Donnie. I handled it badly. Donnie slowly lifted his head. You were scared? For me? Terrified. Brent answered immediately. And in that moment I saw past the powerful CEO facade. I saw a father who loved his son desperately but didn't know how to show it. I gently set Donnie down on his feet. Go ahead, buddy. Talk to your dad. I'm right here. Donnie hesitated, then slowly walked toward Brent. When Brent opened his arms, uncertain, hesitant, Donnie paused for just a second before launching himself forward. Brent caught him and held on tight, so tight it looked like he'd never let go. His face was buried in Donnie's small shoulder and I could clearly see that his eyes were squeezed shut, his veering uneven. I'm so sorry, kiddo, Brent whispered, barely audible. I'm so sorry. Donnie hugged back with his small arms. I'm sorry too, Dad. I shouldn't have fought. No, Brent said immediately, pulling back to look into Donnie's eyes. If someone hurt you or said something wrong, you can stand up for yourself. I just want you safe. That's all I've ever wanted. Donnie nodded, a small smile finally breaking through. I stepped back, giving them space, feeling a strange warmth in my chest. But then Brent looked up at me, still holding Donnie in his arms. His eyes were red. From unshed tears. From exhaustion. Maybe both. Thank you, he said, and those two simple words carried so much weight my throat tightened. I mean it. Thank you. It's okay, I replied awkwardly. Just take care of him. He's a good kid. Brent stood, lifting Donnie easily in one arm. But as he started toward his car, he stopped and looked back at me. What's your name? Tomas. Tomas Reed. Brent nodded slowly, as if committing it to memory. Tomas Reed. He repeated it, then added quietly, I owe you. You don't owe me anything, Mr. Lewis. His expression shifted into something unreadable. Calculating. We'll see about that. And then he walked away, carrying Donnie carefully toward his sleek luxury car. I stood there alone, hands in my pockets, heart still racing, confused and strangely affected. That night when I got home, I couldn't stop thinking about the way Brent had looked at me. Like I wasn't just some stranger, like I mattered. Brent Lewis must have felt defeated for the first time in his life in that moment. His gaze was still fixed on my hand, where I'd so naturally, so gently wiped away Donnie's tears, as if he were my own child. And in that instant, something changed in Brent's eyes. I couldn't quite explain it. Regret? Recognition? Or perhaps something even deeper. He cleared his throat, then spoke softly. Donnie. But Donnie didn't respond. He only pressed himself further into my shoulder. Donnie. Brent tried again, his voice gentler this time. Please, look at me. Donnie shook his head. You hate me now. I know it. Brent went rigid, completely frozen. What? You said it, Donnie's voice broke. Fresh tears threatening to spill. You said if I fought again you wouldn't love me anymore. You said I embarrass you. I felt the shift in Brent's entire body. His fists clenched tight. Not from anger but from the crushing weight of realization, of regret. He took a long, exhausted breath and closed his eyes momentarily, as if trying to gather himself. Donnie, I didn't mean it like that. He stopped, rubbing his forehead hard. I was angry, scared. I never should have said those words. Then why did you yell at me in front of everyone? Donnie whispered, still hiding his face. In front of my teacher and the other parents? You made me feel so small. Like I didn't matter. Brent's entire posture deflated. All the power, all the commanding presence. It drained from him like air from a punctured balloon. Slowly, almost painfully, he lowered himself onto his knees, bringing himself down to Donnie's level, or as close as he could manage. Donnie, I'm sorry, Brent said, and this time his voice cracked with genuine vulnerability. I was scared out of my mind. Your teacher told me you punched a kid who was twice your size. All I could think about was what if you'd gotten seriously hurt. I can't lose you. I reacted terribly. Donnie slowly raised his head, peeking out from my shoulder. You were scared? For me? Absolutely terrified, Brent answered without hesitation. And suddenly I wasn't looking at a powerful CEO anymore. I was looking at a father who loved his son more than anything but had no idea how to express it properly. I carefully lowered Donnie to his feet, keeping one reassuring hand on his back. Go on, buddy. Your dad wants to talk. I'm right here if you need me. Donnie hesitated, taking small, uncertain steps toward Brent. When Brent opened his arms, tentative, unsure, Donnie stopped for just a heartbeat. Then he rushed forward. Brent caught him and held on like his life depended on it. His face buried into Donnie's small shoulder, and I could see clearly that his eyes were squeezed shut, his breathing ragged and uneven. I'm so sorry, kiddo, Brent whispered, voice barely audible. I'm so sorry. Donnie wrapped his small arms around his father's neck. I'm sorry too, Dad. I shouldn't have gotten into a fight. No, Brent said firmly, pulling back just enough to look Donnie in the eyes. If someone hurt you or said something cruel, you have every right to defend yourself. I just need you to be safe. That's the only thing I've ever wanted. Donnie nodded, and a small, genuine smile finally appeared on his tear-stained face. I stepped back, giving them the privacy they needed, feeling an unexpected warmth spreading through my chest. But then Brent glanced up at me, still holding Donnie securely in his arms. His eyes were bloodshot, whether from unshed tears or exhaustion I couldn't tell. Maybe both. Thank you, he said, and those two words carried so much emotional weight that my throat constricted. I truly mean it. Thank you. It's all right. I managed awkwardly, offering a small smile. Just, please take care of him. He's really special. Brent stood, lifting Donnie effortlessly with one arm. But as he began walking toward his car, he stopped and turned back to face me. What's your name? Tomas? Tomas Reed. Brent nodded slowly, as if filing the information away permanently. Thomas Reed. He said it again, deliberately, then added quietly. I owe you a debt. You really don't owe me anything, Mr. Lewis. His expression shifted into something I couldn't read. Thoughtful. Calculating. We'll see about that. Then he walked away, carrying Donnie carefully toward a sleek black car that probably cost more than my annual salary. I remained standing there alone in the parking lot, hands stuffed in my pockets, heart still beating irregularly, feeling confused and strangely moved by everything that had just transpired. When I finally got home that night, I couldn't stop replaying the way Brent had looked at me, not with suspicion or anger but with something else entirely. Like I wasn't just a random stranger who'd gotten involved in his personal crisis. Like I actually mattered to him somehow. I shook my head, trying to dismiss the thought as ridiculous. He was Brent Lewis, billionaire, CEO, completely out of my league in every conceivable way. And I was just Thomas Reed, a nurse who could barely afford his rent. But still, the memory lingered. The next morning at the hospital, I went through my usual routine, checking on patients, administering medications, filling out endless paperwork. My mind kept drifting back to Donnie's terrified face and Brent's broken expression when he'd realized how badly he'd hurt his son. During my lunch break, I checked my phone and found a notification from an unknown number. My stomach did an unexpected flip as I opened the message. A small token of gratitude. Please accept it, BL. Below the text was a photo of what appeared to be an extremely expensive watch, the kind I'd only seen in magazine advertisements. My hands actually trembled as I stared at the screen. This couldn't be real. This had to be some kind of mistake. I quickly typed back, Mr. Lewis, I really can't accept this. It's far too much. I only helped Donnie because it was the right thing to do. The response came within seconds. You did more than help. You gave my son something I haven't been able to provide. Genuine comfort and safety. It's nowhere near enough compensation. Please keep it. I sat there staring at my phone, completely at a loss. How could I argue with a billionaire? But accepting such an extravagant gift felt wrong somehow. Before I could formulate a response, another message appeared. Also, I'd like to see you again. Dinner tomorrow evening at 7. I'll arrange transportation. My heart stopped. Dinner? With Brent Lewis? I typed frantically, Mr. Lewis. That's really not necessary. You don't need to. I insist. Consider it a personal thank you. And please call me Brent. I stared at the message, my mind racing. Was this just a polite gesture? A formal thank you? Or was there something more behind the invitation? That evening, my nosy neighbor Mrs. Chen caught me in the hallway. Tomas, some fancy man in an expensive suit was asking about you this morning. Driving a Mercedes that probably costs more than this entire building. Did you win the lottery or something? I laughed nervously. No, Mrs. Chen. Just helped someone out yesterday. That's all. But that night, lying in bed, I kept thinking about Donnie's small arms around my neck, and Brent's devastated expression. I thought about how desperately that little boy had needed someone to make him feel safe, and how grateful Brent had been when I'd done exactly that. Maybe going to dinner wouldn't hurt. Just to make sure Donnie was doing okay. Just to confirm that things had improved between father and son. Just that. Nothing more complicated. But deep down, I knew I was lying to myself, because when I closed my eyes, I could still feel the intensity of Brent's gaze on me. The way he'd looked at me like I was someone important, someone who changed something fundamental in his carefully controlled world. And that terrified me more than I wanted to admit. The next morning at the hospital, I opened my locker and froze. Inside was an elegant white box with a matte black ribbon. No card attached, just an embossed logo in the corner. Lewis Enterprises. My heart skipped as I carefully lifted it out, feeling the weight of something expensive even before opening it. When I pulled off the ribbon and opened the box, my breath caught. A Patek Philippe watch gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Probably worth 6 months of my salary. Maybe more. What the hell? I whispered, holding it like it might explode in my hands. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A small token of gratitude. Please accept it. B. My pulse quickened. Brent Lewis had messaged me directly? This gift was completely excessive. I was just a nurse who'd helped a scared kid. This wasn't normal. I typed back quickly. Mr. Lewis, I really can't accept this. It's far too much. I only helped Donnie because any decent person would have done the same. His response came within seconds. You gave my son something I've failed to provide. Genuine comfort and a sense of security. This gift doesn't even begin to cover that debt. Please keep it. I stared at my phone screen, completely overwhelmed. How could I argue with someone like him? But accepting felt wrong. Like crossing some invisible boundary I wasn't ready to cross. Another message appeared before I could respond. Also, I'd like to see you again. Dinner tomorrow evening at 7. I'll arrange for a car to pick you up. My stomach flipped. Dinner? With Brent Lewis? I typed frantically, Mr. Lewis, that's really not necessary. You've already thanked me more than enough. I insist. Consider it a personal gesture of appreciation. And please call me Brent. I sat on the bench in the locker room, staring at the message. Personal gesture? What exactly did that mean? Was this just politeness? Or something else entirely? That evening when I got home, my neighbor Mrs. Chen intercepted me in the hallway. Her eyes gleaming with curiosity. Tomas, some well-dressed man in an expensive suit was looking for you this morning. Drove up in a black Mercedes that probably costs more than this entire building. Did you win the lottery or start living a double life? I forced a laugh. Nothing like that, Mrs. Chen. Just helped someone yesterday, that's all. But lying in bed that night, I couldn't stop replaying everything. The way Donnie had clung to me, seeking safety. The way Brent had looked at me when I'd wiped his son's tears, like he'd witnessed something profound. Something he'd been missing for years. I made my decision. I'd go to dinner. Just to make sure Donnie was doing better. Just to confirm that things had improved between father and son. Then I'd politely decline any further contact and return to my normal life. Simple. Clean. Uncomplicated. Except nothing about this situation felt simple anymore. The next evening, I was getting ready in my modest apartment, pulling on a button-up shirt and decent jeans when my phone rang. Mr. Reed? A polished, professional voice asked. Yes? Mr. Lewis has requested that you dress formally this evening. A suit has been couriered to your address and should arrive within 15 minutes. Wait, what? The call ended abruptly. I stood there holding my phone, stunned. He'd sent me a suit. Without even asking? That was either incredibly thoughtful or incredibly presumptuous. I couldn't decide which. Exactly 15 minutes later, my doorbell rang. A delivery person stood there with a premium garment bag bearing a Tom Ford label. My hands trembled slightly as I accepted it. When I tried on the suit, it fit perfectly. Shoulders, sleeves, length, everything was tailored exactly to my measurements. How had he managed that? Had he somehow estimated my size just from seeing me once? The attention to detail was both impressive and slightly unnerving. At 7 o'clock sharp, a sleek black Mercedes pulled up outside my building. The driver stepped out and opened the rear door with practiced formality. Good evening, Mr. Reed. Mr. Lewis is expecting you. I gave a nervous smile and slid into the back seat. The interior smelled of expensive leather and subtle cologne. Soft classical music played through hidden speakers. Everything about this experience felt surreal, like I'd accidentally stepped into someone else's life. As we drove through the city and into an exclusive residential area, my anxiety grew. When the car finally stopped in front of massive iron gates that opened onto a sprawling estate, my breath caught in my throat. This wasn't just a house. This was a monument to wealth and power, a physical manifestation of everything I'd never have. The driver spoke softly. Mr. Lewis is waiting inside, sir. Straight through the main entrance. I swallowed hard and stepped out. This wasn't just dinner. This was something far more significant, and I had no idea what I was walking into. The front door opened before I could knock, revealing an older woman in professional attire, who must have been the housekeeper. She smiled warmly. Mr. Reed, welcome. Please follow me. She led me through a grand foyer with marble floors and a chandelier that sparkled like captured starlight. My footsteps echoed in the vast space, making me acutely aware of how out of place I was here. We passed several rooms, a library with floor-to-ceiling shelves, a sitting room with antique furniture, a study with dark wood paneling. Each space looked like something from an architectural magazine, beautiful but somehow sterile. Finally, she gestured toward a set of double doors. "Mr. Lewis is just through here. He's been looking forward to your arrival." She disappeared before I could ask any questions, leaving me alone in the hallway. I took a deep breath, straightened my borrowed suit jacket, and pushed open the doors. The room beyond took my breath away. It wasn't the formal dining room I'd expected, but rather an intimate space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking illuminated gardens. A single table was set for two, with candles flickering softly and wine already poured. "You came?" I turned toward the voice. Brent stood near the windows, and for the first time he looked almost approachable. He'd traded his intimidating business attire for a casual white linen shirt with the sleeves rolled up and the top buttons undone. His hair was slightly disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it. He looked less like a powerful CEO and more like a regular person. Yes, I managed, suddenly feeling overdressed in the formal suit. "You sent the suit, so I couldn't exactly refuse the invitation." His lips curved slightly, not quite a smile but something softer. "I'm glad you understood that. Come sit down." As I moved toward the table, I noticed small details that humanized the space. The child's drawing was pinned to a corkboard near the door. A half-finished puzzle sat on a side table. These small touches made the mansion feel less like a museum and more like an actual home. Brent pulled out a chair for me, a gesture that felt both old-fashioned and oddly intimate. As I sat, I caught the scent of his cologne, something subtle and expensive that made my pulse quicken involuntarily. I gestured around the room, searching for words. "This is quite elaborate for a simple thank you." Brent settled into the chair across from me, his gray eyes studying my face with unsettling intensity. "Who said it was simple?" The question hung in the air between us, loaded with implications I wasn't ready to examine. I reached for my wine glass just to have something to do with my hands. "Brent, I need to understand what's happening here." I met his gaze directly. "I helped your son during a difficult moment. That's what anyone with a conscience would have done. But this," I gestured at the expensive setting, the custom suit I was wearing. "This feels like something more than gratitude." He leaned back in his chair, one hand wrapped around his wine glass, the other resting on the table between us. "You're right. It is more than gratitude." My heart hammered against my ribs. "Then what is it?" "That's what I'm hoping this evening will help me figure out," he said quietly, his eyes never leaving mine. And suddenly I realized I might be in far deeper than I'd ever anticipated. When I stepped fully into the dining space, the first thing that struck me was the overwhelming silence. Despite the mansion's size, there was no background noise, no television murmuring in another room, no music playing, no sounds of life, just the quiet clink of crystal and the soft crackling of candles. It felt expensive and lonely in equal measure. "You came?" Brent said again, as if he genuinely doubted I would appear. I turned to face him properly, taking in his casual attire. The white linen shirt made him look younger, more vulnerable somehow. His usual armor of expensive suits and corporate confidence had been stripped away, revealing something more human underneath. "I said I would," I replied, awkwardly sliding my hands into my pockets. "Besides, you sent the suit. Would have been rude to refuse after that." His expression softened, not quite a smile, but close. "I'm glad you see it that way. Please sit." He gestured to the intimate table setting, and as I approached, I noticed details I'd missed initially. The plates were fine china with gold trim. The silverware was actual silver, heavy and perfectly polished. Fresh flowers adorned the center, white roses and something else I couldn't identify. Everything was perfect, almost intimidatingly so. "This seems like a lot of effort for a simple thank you," I said carefully, taking my seat. Brent moved to the wine decanter and poured ruby liquid into both glasses with practiced ease. "Perhaps that's because it's not entirely simple." He offered me a glass, which I accepted but didn't drink from immediately. Something about this whole situation made me want to keep my wits sharp. Mr. Lewis. Brent, he corrected gently, settling into the chair opposite me. Please. Brent, I repeated, the name feeling strange on my tongue. I'm confused about what's happening here. I helped Donnie because he was scared. That's it. It doesn't warrant all of this, doesn't it? He leaned forward slightly, his gray eyes intense in the candlelight. Tomas, do you have any concept of how long it's been since someone genuinely connected with my son? I stayed quiet, sensing he needed to continue. Donnie doesn't trust easily, Brent said, his voice dropping lower. Not his teachers, despite how kind they try to be. Not the nannies I've employed over the years. No matter how qualified. Not even his own father most of the time. He paused, something painful flickering across his features. But with you in that parking lot he felt safe immediately. He trusted you within minutes. My throat tightened. He was frightened and needed someone. You made him feel protected, Brent interrupted. But not harshly. In 5 minutes, you accomplished what I've been failing at for 3 years. Do you understand how extraordinary that is? How much it matters? I looked down at my wine glass, uncomfortable with the intensity of his stare. I work with children, Brent. I'm a pediatric nurse. Comforting scared kids is literally part of my job description. You're more than just your profession, Tomas. He moved closer, his knee almost touching mine under the small table. There's something authentic about you. Something genuine that people respond to instinctively. Don felt it. And truthfully, he hesitated, seeming to choose his next words carefully. So did I. My breath caught. What? Brent slowly raised his hand, and for a moment I thought he might touch my face. But he stopped just short, his fingers hovering near my cheek. I want to offer you a position. A position? I echoed, confused by the sudden shift. As Donnie's personal caregiver, he clarified, though his gaze remained intensely focused on me. He needs consistency, someone who genuinely cares about his well-being, not just another employee going through the motions. I nearly knocked over my chair standing up. Brent, I have a career, a life. I can't just abandon everything. I'll match your current salary, he said calmly, as if we were discussing something mundane. Double it, actually. Triple if that's what it takes. You'd live here in the East Wing, completely private suite with every amenity, full benefits, and flexible scheduling so you could maintain your nursing career part-time if you wanted. That's not, please. His voice cracked, and suddenly the powerful CEO facade shattered completely. I'm losing him, Tomas. My own son is slipping further away from me every day, and I don't know how to stop it. But you reached him effortlessly. That has to mean something. He looked devastated. Raw in a way I suspected few people ever witnessed. This wasn't a business negotiation. This was a father desperately trying to save his relationship with his child. I sank back into my chair. I need time to think about this. Of course. Relief washed visibly across his face. That's all I ask. Just consider it. Dinner arrived then, brought in by silent staff who appeared and disappeared like ghosts. The food was incredible. Some kind of herb-crusted fish with vegetables I couldn't even name. Under different circumstances, I might have enjoyed it, but my mind was spinning too fast to fully appreciate anything. We talked throughout the meal, mostly about Donnie. Brent asked questions about child psychology, about what might help his son feel more secure. I found myself answering honestly, sharing observations from my work with pediatric patients. Gradually, the tension eased and our conversation became almost natural. He loves space, Brent mentioned at one point. A small smile touching his lips. Planets, stars, astronauts. His room is covered in glow-in-the-dark constellations. That's wonderful, I said genuinely. Shows curiosity and imagination. I bought him a telescope last month, Brent continued, something sad entering his expression. Top of the line, professional grade. But I haven't actually used it with him yet. Work keeps interfering. The admission hung heavy between us, and I understood then just how much he regretted his absences. As we finished eating, I prepared to make my exit politely. But then I heard small footsteps padding down a distant hallway. Tomas? I turned to see Donnie standing in the doorway, wearing dinosaur pajamas and clutching a stuffed bear. His eyes were heavy with sleep but brightened when he saw me. Donnie? Brent looked surprised. You should be asleep, buddy. Couldn't sleep, Donnie said. Then his gaze fixed on me hopefully. Will you come back tomorrow? My heart melted instantly. I crouched down to his level, gently brushing his messy hair back. I'll think about it, okay? Promise? He held out his small pinky finger. I glanced up at Brent, who stood watching us with an expression I couldn't quite read. Hope mixed with something deeper, something almost desperate. I linked my pinky with Donnie's. Promise. The smile that broke across his face was radiant and pure. And in that moment I knew I was about to make a decision that would change everything. Because maybe walking into trouble wasn't always a bad thing. Maybe sometimes, trouble was exactly where you needed to be. I said yes. 1 week later I moved into the Lewis estate, with everything I owned fitting into 3 suitcases and a handful of boxes. I'd arranged a part-time schedule with the hospital, weekends and occasional evening shifts. Financially, this opportunity was incredible. More money than I'd ever imagined earning. But money wasn't why I'd accepted. I'd accepted because of Donnie. My new living quarters, calling it a room would be an insult, was larger than my entire previous apartment. A spacious bedroom with a king-sized bed, a separate living area with comfortable furniture, an attached bathroom that resembled a luxury spa and a private balcony overlooking the estate's gardens. Everything was tasteful and expensive, yet somehow felt impersonal, like a high-end hotel. But the most important thing wasn't the accommodations. It was Donnie. The first day, when he saw me officially moving in, his entire face lit up like Christmas morning. Thomas, you're staying? Really staying? Really staying, I confirmed, kneeling to his level. Pretty cool, right? He launched himself at me, wrapping his arms around my neck in the tightest hug I'd ever received. The embrace was honest and desperate, filled with relief I hadn't expected. I'm so happy, he whispered against my shoulder. I've been so lonely. But now you're here. Those words broke something inside me and simultaneously put it back together. From that day forward, I watched Donnie transform. He started playing with actual enthusiasm, laughing at jokes, eating meals without constant coaxing. We played soccer in the gardens, read books together and established a bedtime routine involving stories and quiet conversation. He began opening up about his fears, his dreams, his confusion about why his mother had left. He was healing, slowly, beautifully, like a flower finally receiving sunlight after too long in shadow. And Brent noticed everything. Every night when he returned from work, usually around 9 or 10 o'clock, he went directly to Donnie's room. If I was there helping with homework or bedtime preparations, Brent would linger in the doorway, leaning against the frame, quietly observing our interactions. Sometimes he'd smile. Small, genuine expressions that softened his usually stern features. Other times his eyes held something heavier, something like regret or longing. One Friday evening, after Donnie had finally drifted off to sleep clutching his favorite stuffed bear, I carefully adjusted his blankets and slipped out into the hallway. Brent was waiting there. He's asleep, I said softly. Thank you. He nodded but didn't move, just stood there studying me with an unreadable expression. Did you need something? I asked awkwardly. Walk with me, he said. It sounded like a request rather than a command. We made our way through the mansion and out into the gardens, where string lights created a soft, magical glow among the trees. The night air was cool and comfortable, carrying the scent of jasmine. He laughed today, Brent said suddenly, hands sliding into his pockets. A real full laugh when you were playing hide and seek. I heard it from my office window. He paused, his voice becoming rougher. I couldn't remember the last time I'd heard that sound. My chest tightened painfully. He just needed someone to spend genuine time with him. He needed you, Brent corrected quietly, stopping and turning to face me. The moonlight softened his sharp features, making him look younger and more vulnerable. And honestly, Tomas, so do I. I froze. Brent. I know, he said quickly, raising one hand. I know this isn't professional. I know it's complicated and inappropriate, but ever since that night in the parking lot, I can't stop thinking about you. Wondering what you're doing, whether Donnie learned something new today. If you're happy here. He took a shaky breath. I can't think logically anymore. And that terrifies me. Brent, you're my employer. I don't care about that, he said firmly. stepping closer and gently grasping my wrist. I don't care about professional boundaries or what's considered proper. All I know is that when you're rear, this house feels alive. When you're not, everything feels hollow. Empty. You barely know me, I whispered, acutely aware of his touch, his proximity. Then let me know you better, he said, his other hand rising to cup my cheek. His touch was careful, almost reverent. Let me understand who you are, Tomas. Please. I don't want this to remain just a professional arrangement. My breathing became unsteady. This is insane. We come from completely different worlds. I know. He leaned forward until his forehead touched mine, close enough that I could feel his breath. But I haven't felt this alive in years. Not since. He stopped abruptly, pain flashing through his eyes. Since when? I prompted gently. Since Donnie's mother abandoned us, he admitted in barely more than a whisper. 3 years ago, she left one morning while Donnie was at school. Just walked out with a note saying she wasn't built for motherhood or this lifestyle. And since then I've just been going through the motions, functioning like a machine. Until you appeared. Suddenly everything changed. Without thinking, my hand moved to his chest, feeling his heartbeat racing beneath my palm. Fast. Matching my own frantic rhythm. I don't know if this is right, I confessed honestly. Neither do I, he breathed, his thumb tracing along my cheekbone. But I know that if I don't tell you how I feel, I'll regret it forever. And I don't want to have regrets about you. Then, slowly giving me every opportunity to pull away, he pressed his lips to my forehead. The kiss was soft, gentle, and absolutely devastating in its tenderness. Just think about it, he said, finally stepping back, though his hand lingered on mine for an extra heartbeat. I'm not asking for an answer now. Just consider what this could be. He walked back toward the house, leaving me standing alone in the garden with my hand pressed to my forehead where his lips had been, my heart in complete chaos and one overwhelming realization. I was falling for him. Despite every logical reason I shouldn't, despite the complications and the impossibility of it all, I was developing real feelings for Brent Lewis. And that truth both terrified and exhilarated me in equal measure. Because for the first time in my careful, predictable life, I was standing at the edge of something unknown. Something that could either be beautiful or disastrous. And I had no idea which way I'd fall. But standing there under the stars, feeling the ghost of his kiss still warm on my skin, I realized something else. Maybe I wanted to find out. Maybe taking this risk was exactly what I needed to do.